The first reason that you're always hungry is because you're just not getting enough sleep. And I'm starting with this one for a reason. First of all, because it's way more common than you probably realize. And second of all, it's really just not discussed enough. Now, when you get poor sleep, it can significantly increase our stress hormone cortisol, as well as our hunger hormone ghrelin. This cocktail of hormones not only increases our hunger, but also specifically increases our cravings for sugar and starches. And especially if weight loss is your goal, this can be really detrimental to achieving those goals because sugars and starches are the foods that are going to most greatly stimulate our storing hormone insulin. And when insulin is high, the fat burning process called lipolysis is turned off, making it really difficult to achieve a weight loss goal. In fact, just sleep loss alone is enough to really impair glucose tolerance. So if you aren't getting enough sleep, you can check out this video with some strategies. If you're new here, my name's Autumn and I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's nutrition human performance. And today's video is sponsored by my favorite bone broth company, Kettle and Fire. More on them in a bit. The second reason that you're always hungry is that you're eating too many of the refined carbohydrates or sugars. Now, we already know that sleep deprivation can increase the cravings for those types of foods, but these types of foods themselves can also cause increased hunger. These foods break down really quickly and are therefore absorbed really fast into our blood supply, and the faster that spike goes up, the faster it comes crashing down. This crash in blood glucose is really dangerous for our body, and it typically happens between 1 to 2 hours after eating a really high starchy or sugary meal. And so to help get those blood glucose levels back up, the body cues strong cravings and hunger. You also might notice that you're feeling a little bit cranky or even hangry. That's the result of that blood glucose crashing. And then when you experience that crash, it then causes you to crave those same sugary and starchy foods that got you there in the first place. And then that cycle continues, which can then result in multiple snacking or grazing throughout the day. Third reason that you're always hungry is that you're not getting enough protein. Protein is our main satiating food source. It has the strongest signal on our satiety hormone, peptide YY, and these satiety hormones are needed to feel full and satisfied for about 4 hours. If you're feeling hungry within 2 hours, it's likely because you're not getting enough protein at your meal. And most people really aren't getting enough, or at least not enough of a high quality protein source. And even if you feel really full after a meal, but you feel hungry within 2 hours, that's a huge sign that you didn't get enough protein, because that initial fullness is purely from our food stretching out our stomach. That initial fullness is completely lost once the food travels from the stomach to the small intestine. And if you don't have the hormonal response from protein, then you're going to feel hungry as soon as that food leaves the stomach and enters into the small intestine. In fact, there's another study done where they combined collagen with protein and found that this combination helps to boost satiety by about 40% more than just protein alone. So especially if you really struggle with hunger, making sure that you have some sort of collagen source along with your protein can really boost satiety. Now, you can use something like collagen powder, but I like to get collagen or gelatin for that matter from a more whole food source, which is why I love today's sponsor, Kettle and Fire. Kettle and Fire creates a really high quality bone broth that's really packed with a lot of collagen. And to get that boost of collagen and to feel even more satisfied at my meals, I like to use bone broth as the base of my soups and stews and chilies. And bone broth is much different than just regular chicken broth that you'll get from a grocery store. Bone broth is actually simmered bones for about 10 to 20 hours or even longer to fully extract the collagen and minerals needed. And I love that Kettle and Fire simmers their grass-fed bones for over 20 hours to really maximize that nutrient value. Lately, I've been really obsessed with using their Chipotle beef bone broth. I'll use that as the base for a lot of my chilies, and it just adds a whole extra layer of flavor that's amazing. Now, Kettle and Fire is offering the AM Peeps 20% off their bone broth plus free shipping when using code AUTUMNBAITS at checkout. So I'll have the details for that link down in the description below. Definitely check it out. It's a game changer, especially if you find that you aren't getting satiated with just protein alone. Okay, the fourth reason that you're always hungry is that you're exercising a lot, particularly if you're doing a lot of high intensity interval training or if you're doing a lot of endurance training. This is absolutely not to say that exercise is bad. In fact, a balanced routine of strength training, walking, and some high intensity interval training is really helpful for improving insulin sensitivity, which you can check out my workout routine with this video right here. But the thing about doing a lot of endurance training or a lot of high intensity interval training is that it can really drain your muscle glycogen, which is where the vast majority of the carbohydrates are going to be stored. And when you drain that muscle glycogen with something like a lot of endurance training or a lot of high intensity interval training, this can sometimes result in really significantly high hunger cravings, and particularly hunger cravings for something starchy or sugary to replace what was lost in the muscles. There's two ways to really avoid this. The first is to approach exercise with more of a stepwise manner. In other words, not jumping straight into a lot of endurance training or straight into a lot of high high intensity interval training, the body will learn how to more efficiently use fat as a fuel source and therefore not drain muscle glycogen if you go at it this stepwise approach. A second way with endurance training is to eat your meal within 1 to 2 hours after you had that long run or cycle or swim. That way you're just getting ahead of that hunger spike. You'll also want to emphasize for those lower glycemic or medium glycemic types of carbohydrates so that you don't get that big spike in glucose and therefore that crash. Because that crash, remember, also results in more cravings and eating more frequently. Now, the fifth reason that you're always hungry is that you're not eating enough fat. Now, fat is the other hormonal aspect of satiety. Fat is a really strong signal to release the satiety hormone CCK or cholecystokinin. And unfortunately, fat has been demonized for a really long time, so most of us are used to having like lean cuts of meat or actively not adding in any fats to our meals. And this in itself can lead to the hunger within 2 hours, just like with protein. Great natural sources of fat include avocados, olives, nuts, seeds, various dairy products, and then even choosing fattier cuts of meat or keeping the skin on with chicken. Now, if weight loss is your goal, make sure you check out my 5 super easy tips to lose 20 pounds with this video right here. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out with new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.